Hi everybody, welcome to the dungeon. My name is Robin and today is Lampworking 101.81. Today we're going to talk about marble beads. These beads are so much fun to build up. You can experiment with all sorts of colors and stringers with this as well. This is just a great fun little technique. You can make it as simple or as complex as you want. And this one is a little lengthy, so we might as well get right into it. On that note, I hope you're all doing safe and well out there. Thanks so much for joining me, and we'll see you next time in the dungeon. You know how sometimes when you're working on your glass and time just all of a sudden just goes by so fast, like in a blink of an eye? That's kind of what happened with this bead. It took me almost 45 minutes or so to make this, and I did not realize that time went by so fast. There's a lot that happens on this bead, so make sure you have plenty of time to work on this if you decide to make one. Okay, so I'm just going to start out with a base color. It could be any color that you want. And because I'm working with transparents, I'm just going to use a white as my base color. And I'm going to build this up about a ½ inch. I'm going to add a little bit more here later on. But the first thing I want to do is just get some glass on the mandrel and start to roll it out into a long, thin barrel-shaped bead. The thinner you can get this, the better, because this is like the deepest layer. And even though we're going to put a lot of layers on this, it really can, it doesn't look, it'll just give you more depth the thinner and smaller you start. So I'm going to add a little bit more glass on here, and just to lengthen it some, you can just add some glass onto the end and heat it up, roll it out, and be careful when you roll your beads out. You don't want to mess up the bead release, and especially you don't want to bend the mandrel. Because I am working with two hands here, it's very easy to bend the mandrel, so be careful. So once I have a nice barrel-shaped bead, I'm going to add 3 different colors. So we're going to make this a 3-sided marble bead. The first color I'm going to add here is the Effetri dark transparent violet, or is the dark transparent purple. Either way, it's the more purple of the two. There's another one that might be the dark violet or purple that's a little bit more on the red side. So this is more of a purple. It's really pretty. And next to this color, I'm going to add the Effetri aqua blue dark. This is a really beautiful dark aqua blue, and I'm leaving a little bit of the white in between these colors. You don't have to do that. It's just a personal preference. Either way, I'm going to flatten that down a little bit and shape it up somewhat, crisp up the sides, and then I'm going to add my third color, which is the gold pink. I love this color. If you don't have this color, you can use like a lighter transparent violet. You don't even have to use violet. You can use a green, would look beautiful here, or an orange would look really good too. Have fun with your colors. This is a great way to experiment with different colors, is by making marble beads because they're so colorful. I'm just flattening that color down a little bit, and then I'm going to spend some time just setting everything up for this on this layer. I want the color to widen and flatten out on all 3 sides. And I also want the edges to kind of start coming towards each other as well. And I always think that I should cut certain areas out of my demos or make them even faster, but I don't want to leave anything out, even if it might be a little boring or all I'm doing is just heating and shaping, and I don't like leaving anything out. So I just put it all in here, and it does take time to do everything, but right here I'm just rolling it out, and I'm kind of giving it a 3-sided flattening a little bit. On top of this, we're going to add our first layer of stripes, and these, I want you to see that it wouldn't stick to the blue because I didn't have the color hot enough. So the best way to add these hairline stringers is to heat up the color first where you want to add it, just to get it kind of sticky on the surface. And then it should be easier for you to draw a nice thin line of color on there. And this is the intense black with clear on top, pulled out into a very fine thread. This is a wonderful way to add variety through different sizes on your bead. And I'm just going to flatten those little tops and bottoms of the stringer down a little bit. And then I'm going to add some veiled cane on top of each one of these colors. And this really is nice because it's another width, you know, so we're getting a lot of variety through stringer and cane work here. And each color is going to receive a different color on top, just an opposite color on the spectrum, something that'll really stand out nice. And the one thing here that is very interesting to me is how you can get all the colors to come really close to the mandrel. And what I do is I just heat up that bottom bit of color until all the bits of cane are nice and hot. And then I'll take just any random stringer or bit of cane that I have and heat and pull each one of those down a couple times, so all the cane ends up getting closer and closer to that bead hole. And then, so here I'm just heating, grabbing it with the cane. You can do this several times, but I find that this is really important because it almost hides the ends of the cane really close to the bead hole. And that's what I like about this, so you don't have cane just hanging out without anywhere to go on the end. You know what I mean? Anyway, so once I pulled the cane out, I will use my butter knife to just kind of curl in those little bits of glass and help coax them closer to the mandrel. And that really helps out to make a nice even cane, like end-to-end effect. So on top of this, now that I have all the cane that I want on top of this, and yes, you can add more cane. Don't worry. This doesn't have to be the only layer that you add cane to. You can add cane in every layer that you create. But on top of this, what I'm going to do is start adding all of my clear glass. I want to totally encase these layers of color, these 3 different sides. And I add 3 coats of clear. I have about 2 coats to add onto that first color, but either way you want to cover all of the color. I am not adding clear where that white stripe is though. I kind of want that to become lifted up into the glass. I want it to, what's the word I'm looking for? I want it to wick up to the surface a little bit more, giving it some 3-dimensional effects. So I'm going to continue adding on top of the glass a couple more times. So really I end up with probably maybe 5 or 6 full swipes of clear on top of each one of these colors. And that's going to get me somewhere close to the size I want, but there's still a few more layers to go. I want to show you the side view of this in a second here so you can kind of see what it looks like. So yeah, we got like a big triangular area. And now I want to deal with these edges. So I'm heating up the clear and just gently pulling them in and covering up a little bit more of that transparent and just pulling it into and towards the mandrel. Okay, so now what I want to do here is just start heating up everything, and it does take a little bit of time, so I'm just kind of going a little faster here and skipping a little bit of that reheat. And here we have it much softer And if you want to, you can very gently, kind of round it out here. I'm not really rolling as much as I am just kind of gently pressing certain areas down to help round it out. Okay, so once this is all nice and soft looking, we are going to add more clear. This is a perfect time to add more stripes if you like, and then add more clear on top. But I didn't want to make a really long video. Either way, I thought these would look great just the way they are and make it nice and simple. So what I'm doing here is just going in and I'm adding a clear layer all the way around, as well as adding clear where those colors meet. And you see that little bit of white. I want to cover that up too on this layer. The fun thing about making these marble beads is anything goes. It's really just layers of cane and stringers that you were, doing your best to pull to the edges, and then layers of clear glass. So depending on how many layers you add, you can add many bits of stringers and threads and cane, however much you want to do. So once I have had that side coated, here I am just filling in all of these areas. I could use a pick and draw the clear glass down, but I opted just to add a little bit more clear all the way around to cover up what I need to. And it does trap bubbles. I'm not going to tell you that I didn't get any bubbles in this piece, because I did. There's plenty of bubbles in here. I really don't worry too much about bubbles when I'm making certain pieces like this. If it's a natural bubble in the glass, I don't worry about it at all, because when I'm adding these layers, it's kind of going to happen no matter what. Either way, this is what I have right now, are these 3 awesome layers of glass with the pinstripe cane running through it. And we're almost done. All I want to do at this point now is add a little bit more cane, and I decided to go with this off-white color. It's really the Marmo Verde, pulled out, very thin, and it's the lightest shade of green. And you probably don't even notice it, but it just gives it a warmer white effect. And I'm adding this white in between each one of these colors just to see how it's gonna look in the end. I didn't want to just have inside stripes. I wanted to have some on the outside too. And you see, I do spend some time pulling down these stripes and trying to get them closer and closer and closer to the mandrel. However, I probably could have kept going, because in the end, when I was looking at the bead, I noticed that I could have really pushed them a lot more deeper in towards the mandrel. Either way, I got pretty close. So, that's the best, technique that I can give when it comes to how do you get everything to meet back up at the mandrel. And I do go ahead and use a pick as well in a second here, but I decided that I would add more clear on top. So let's do it. I add 2 layers of clear on top of each one of these stringers. So I know it's so much. Make sure you have like quite a, 2 or 3 nice long rods of clear before you start this bead. And so I'm going to add a little bit of clear to the very top just to cover up that bit of cane if you need to. So that's what I'm doing here, just covering up a little bit more. And then I'll go ahead and use my pick to bring everything closer to the mandrel. I think if anything, this was a really good learning experience for me, because I really learned how to push that clear, the stringers and that cane, as close to the mandrel as I could get. That was my favorite thing that I got out of this. So now that I've kind of pulled everything in a little bit more at those edges, I'm just going to soften and heat everything up. I work on that bottom a little bit more. Just pulling everything in. And now I am going to soften it up. And as I'm looking at this, I kind of feel like I needed to add a little bit more clear. So that's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna add a little bit more clear on the color, not on that white stripe, but right in between. And I felt good that I did this because it kind of rounded the whole bead out for me from the lengthwise perspective, or from the bead hole perspective. So you can see here in a second, I will show you. There it is. That's my final package. And now we are ready to heat the whole thing up and give a nice soft twist to it. So before I can do any twisting, what I need to do is just start to heat everything up. I am just rounding it out a little bit there to kind of push everything together and to push that heat down a little bit into the marble, because that's what we want. We want this marble bead hot all the way through, because what we're trying to do is heat the very center up again so all those colors start to twist. And most of my time is spent pretty much in the center. This is, I think, one of the last times I will press it down onto anything before I give it the final heat. And the last several minutes is just really going to be spent slow heating. And it is sped up a bit, but you know, heat like this can take a good 5 minutes. So I had to speed it up. Either way, what I'm doing is I'm focusing most of my heat, like when I get things super hot, I'll focus all my heat on one side of the bead, like more of it's on the left side here, because that's the side that I'm going to start my twist with. And I am only rotating away from me, so the glass will slowly draw itself towards me. And you can see right now it's starting to move those inner colors into the twist that we're looking for. So all of my heat, even though the whole bead is super hot, most of my heat is right there on one side and slowing my heating down, which allows that glass to move backwards and give a nice spiral. And then I'm going to cool that side down when I'm happy with it. And I'm going to turn it around and kind of do the same thing on the other side, but not as much, because I already kind of like how much this is twisted. So we are going to stop right around here. Now, if you want more of a twist, keep going, but this is where we're going to stop. And I hope, if you made it through this whole demonstration, thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed this, and we'll see you next time in the dungeon.